What do you know about Medicare enrollment? Welcome to Ask the Planman. I'm your host, Bruce Weinstein. We're going to break down for you what's involved and what your options are when it comes to Medicare. Before we get started, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. And as always, put your questions in the comments below. Let's break down Medicare and then what the options are when it comes to Medicare enrollment. For the majority of us, Medicare is going to be when you turn 65. There are people under the age of 65 that fall into some special situations that can go on Medicare. We're not going to get into that. When you're turning 65, you're going to have to make decisions of what to do with your Medicare selections. So let's start first and foremost with what exactly is Medicare, what the benefits and programs are, and then we're going to break this down in different episodes. Medicare as a whole is an 80-20 government-provided platform. They're going to pay 80% of your costs, you're going to pay 20%. The question is going to be, what do you want to do when it comes to your 20% responsibility? But let's rewind a little bit further. What you need to know is you have to go to ssa.gov to get enrolled. Your enrollment window starts 90 days before you turn 65. You're going to go to ssa.gov and you're going to apply for Medicare, and we and the agent you deal with are going to need your Medicare enrollment card and your effective dates. So these are some key terminologies here you want to pay attention to. ssa.gov, 90 days before your birthday. Now, if you're Rip Van Winkle and you woke up and it's after your birthday, you have 90 days after your birthday to still enroll. So it's a total of a 6-month window. If you never enrolled during that 90 day before, 90 day after, then you're going to have to wait for the next cycle of open enrollment, which is October 15th every year. But I digress. Let's keep going. Medicare enrollment, 80-20. Now you're going to have to make decisions on what to do with that 20%. In this week's episode, we're going to talk about Medicare supplement plans. Episode 2, we'll talk about Medicare Advantage. So what exactly is a Medicare supplement plan? Well, that's flat out insurance. You're going to be paying an insurance company to cover the 20% gap. In fact, let's write that down. You may hear the term Medigap. Medigap, Medicare supplement, that's what we're talking about. It's the gap between your responsibility and the government's payment for that 20%. A Medicare supplement plan is pretty much going to cover that gap and fill in all the costs of your co-pays, of your doctor visits. We're going to talk about prescription drugs later, episode 3, so I won't get into that today. All right, so let's talk about what Medicare supplements provide to you and why you would want to pick that plan over Medicare Advantage. First and foremost, this is a national PPO network. It's good anywhere in the country. It's a PPO, Preferred Provider Organization, versus HMO, which most people hate because they have to always get referrals. So people will select the Medicare supplements because maybe they're a snowbird, they live or have multiple properties around the country. They don't have to keep changing their plans, they don't have to worry about their network. Their coverage is anywhere a Medicare doctor accepts, or a doctor that takes Medicare accepts, okay? Next important component is outside of a small annual deductible, everything else is covered 100%. Now, this is not a long-term care nursing home policy. That's a long-term care episode we'll talk about later on, but we're talking about hospitalization, procedures, doctor visits, okay? Medicare Part A is your hospitalization. Medicare Part B is your doctors. Medicare Part D, again, episode 3, we're going to talk about prescription drugs. So what you're talking with your Medicare supplement is if you're hospitalized and need a procedure, who covers the 20%? If you're seeing your doctors and your doctor has to do some small things in their office, who's covering the 20%? Make sense? If you have questions, make sure you put them in the comments, like, share, and subscribe. All right, so let's summarize what we've talked about today regarding Medicare, getting your enrollment going, and the Medigap using Medicare supplements. Now, you're going to hear confusing terminology out there. There's Part A and Part B. Part A is your hospitalization. Part B is your doctor visits. Part D is in David, we're going to talk about in episode 3. That's your prescription drugs. Where people get confused when they call us is, well, what's Plan N, what's Plan F, what's Plan G? So when you're picking a Medicare supplement plan, there's going to be different plans available to you. Don't confuse that with Part. Part A and Part B is what's referred to as original Medicare. Going back to the top of my page, that's the 80-20. You don't have to do any of this. You don't need a Medicare Advantage. You don't need a Medicare supplement. You can just stick on a regular, original Medicare at 80-20. But now that 20% is unlimited exposure to you. That's why people want to fill the gap. That's why they buy a supplement plan. So year after year, they always have that protected. They have a $500,000 procedure. They don't want a $100,000 bill. Medicare supplement plan is going to take care of that, okay? The most popular plan right now we use with clients, not to confuse you, is Plan G. Plan G is going to give you the highest amount of coverage in the Medicare supplement space. All Medicare supplements have an annual deductible, I mentioned earlier. Once you've met that small deductible, you have 100% coverage with your Plan Gs, all right? I'm sure you're having questions. We're going to talk about Medicare Advantage in episode 2. We're going to talk about prescription drugs in episode 3. As always, please like, share, and subscribe. Any questions, always give us a call at 844-PLANMAN. Throw them in our comments below. We're happy to get back in touch with you personally. I'm Bruce Weinstein. This has been another episode of Ask the Plan Man, where we talked about Medicare supplements and getting enrolled in Medicare. I hope you got some value out of it, and we'll see you next time.